Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the New Lead Order podcast. I'm your host, Marjorie. If you tuned in to my last episode with Pooja Madan, you heard us talk about how leadership today is calling us inward. It's asking more of us. It's requiring more of us, more self-awareness, more alignment, more mindfulness. One thing Pooja said that stayed with me is that leadership at its core is human. And in order to lead in a way that's sustainable, we have to lead from who we truly are, not from who we've been told to be. And that speaks directly to something that I've been exploring in my work. What does it mean to be a Renaissance woman and to leave from many selves? Now, a Renaissance woman, I identify as a Renaissance woman. And she is a woman that is multi-dimensional. She's multi-talented, she's multi-gifted. And to me, she's someone who refuses to be reduced. She doesn't want to be boxed in. She leads with intellect, creativity, intuition, and soul. She can be strategic and deeply feeling. She doesn't shrink to fit someone else's definition of a leader. In fact, she expands in it. It took me a while to embrace the fact that I am a Renaissance woman. I never thought of myself as being creative. I never thought of myself as being, too bright or smart. I never thought of myself as being a deep thinker or strategic. But in life, I evolved and learned more about myself and found that I am very creative, produced plays, a documentary, wrote a book. I paint. I played Sojourner Truth in a production. I'm very strategic. I'm good at what I do. And I've heard this from folks that I've worked with. I've ran a couple of businesses of my own. I've consulted with leaders. I am a deep thinker. I read and I study. And I started my education, my college education, actually at the age of 42 and got my master's by 50. All of these layers make me who I am. And as I self-reflect and think back over my life, I see how everything that I've experienced, it was meaningful and it affects and connects back to where I am today. For so long, leadership has rewarded a narrow range of traits, more masculine in nature. But what happens when you are all of those things? You're masculine and feminine, right? You can be fun and you can be serious. What happens when you don't want to lead in either or terms? This is why I found Pooja's self framework so affirming. Again, if you didn't watch that episode, please go back and watch it because it's a reminder that leadership doesn't start with performance metrics. It starts with self. And for many of us, that means truly knowing ourselves and understanding ourselves. It hasn't been easy for me, you know. There has been moments when I felt like I had to choose between, being the strategist or being the artist, the thinker or the healer, the ambitious leader or the deeply spiritual woman. And people will tell you, niche down, niche down as much as possible and stay in one lane because you don't want to be, what do they call it, jack of all trades and master of none. But I've come to understand that these aren't contradictions, they're like a constellation. And denying parts of myself to appear credible or professional was like a form of self-abandonment. We have to show up in certain places and put on a particular mask, right? And so if you've ever felt like too much or not enough, or like you didn't quite fit into that mold or box, especially when it comes to leadership, I want you to know that that is not a flaw. It's actually a signal. We are not here to fit into outdated models. We're here to build new ones. Hmm. The leaders we need now and in the future must be multi-dimensional. So leading as a Renaissance woman is a form of resistance. It's a refusal to compartmentalize your genius. It's choosing to lead from your complexity, not in spite of it. Who just spoke about the need to create space for joy and fulfillment. We talked about that, not just achievement. It's not just a wellness practice. It's it's structural change. Because the more we lead with our whole selves, the more we can change the culture around what leadership can actually look like. But how can you do that if you don't truly know yourself and engage in the work of self? And part of how we lead is through the work of self. So, what do I mean when I say the work of self? Well, that includes mindfulness practice, presencing, stillness. It means learning to be comfortable with your own company, listening to your own voice. Could you even identify it? It means being willing to sit with the questions through practices of self-inquiry and self-reflection. It's not always glamorous, but it's where alignment lives. It's where leadership begins. So this can look like a couple of things. It can look like starting your day with just 5 minutes of silence before you grab your phone. Check in with your inner world before you check in with the outer world. Journal about the questions, right? What's coming up for you? What are you avoiding in yourself right now? If you feel some resistance to just sitting and being, taking a pause between back-to-back meetings to just breathe and check in, just in everyday life, whatever it is, going from one thing to the next. Take a moment, put your feet up, and choosing to observe your reactions instead of immediately responding. That is so important. So when I say that the Renaissance woman is returning, that's the title of this episode. I don't mean she's making a comeback. I mean, she's stepping forward. She's choosing to lead as she is. And that changes everything. Everything. I'd love to hear from you if you consider yourself a Renaissance woman. And I want to ask you these two questions. I'll leave you with these two reflective prompts here. What parts of yourself have you sidelined in order to be taken seriously as a leader? Are you denying parts of yourself, your true self? What would it look like to bring those parts forward? Mm. These are some of the questions that we'll actually be exploring inside my Wild Woman Leadership community. This month, we're kicking things off with an invitation-only session where I'll have a group of women leaders, and we will begin that process, remembering and returning to ourselves, guided by the book Women Who Run with the Wolves and the Awakened Women. Now, I know you wouldn't think that that has any connection to women in leadership, but I disagree. It has everything to do with women in leadership and the future of leadership. So if this speaks to you and you're feeling really called to maybe be a part of future gatherings, just let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me on Substack or on YouTube. Listen, thanks for being here again. Um, Feel free to share this with someone if you think it will resonate with them, and reflect on your own Renaissance story. I'll see you in the next episode.